I have been in stressful cities. I was expecting New York to be really stressful. After all, I'm an INTP, but I had a pretty relaxing time in New York, to be honest. It's hard to explain. So why people say so many bad things about New York? There's this tendency to think that pragmatic people are selfish, rude, and carried only by their own interests. And there's a tendency to think that someone that says nice words and compliments is equal to a good, kind person. But is that truth? On the first trip to New York, I thought I was going to encounter rude and angry people on the train, but except for the occasional drug addict that is just there, everyone was just neutral. Most of them were looking at their phones, listening to music, or reading something. Occasionally, someone disrupted the peace and talked really loudly, but they were the exception. For the most part, New Yorkers just seemed to do their own stuff, barely bringing attention to them. You know when you go to a place and people keep making eye contact all the time, almost like stealing your energy? New Yorkers are not like that. People are not interested in you. They just exist. I think in some weird way, New Yorkers are similar to Japanese people.
What the f*** did you say?
Just hear me out. When I was in Tokyo, I realized that everyone follows unwritten rules. Don't stand on the wrong side of the escalator. Don't be loud on the metro. Don't be rude for the sake of it. Don't stand in the middle of the sidewalk. Everyone follows these rules, and if you don't, you may get a few annoying looks. And New York is the same. So why Japanese people are seen as really lovely and kind? Well, because they care about how they superficially appear to others. They even have a word for it. The contrast between a person's true feelings and desires often kept hidden to oneself, and the behavior and opinions displayed in public to satisfy society's demands. I'm not saying that all of their public behavior is fake, because of course everyone knows that Japanese society has a really high regard for mutual respect in their society. What I'm saying is that a portion of their public kindness is magnified or exaggerated. Not that I don't appreciate a nice Japanese lady smiling and nodding at me while I try to order some fries, but sometimes in the middle of the interaction, I doubt and think, is she really this nice? In New York, tatamae is not a thing. You don't get overly respectful people everywhere. You get just people dreading their everyday existence. So think about it in this way. If Japanese people and New Yorkers were two orphan babies, Japanese people will be the baby that got adopted by a nice and kind family, and New Yorkers will be the baby that no one adopted and was raised by wolves. Does that make sense? I can count the number of times that I got my luggage carried by someone because they saw I was struggling. Every time that I needed help with something and was too desperate to even ask for help, people just noticed it and tried to give me a hand. I saw people holding doors and saying sorry a ridiculous amount of times when trying to walk past me, even when they didn't touch a single atom of my shoulder. People just offered disinterested help for all sorts of things just because they were passing by and noticed that they could help. I don't know if I'm this surprised about this unexpected kindness.
After you, my lady.
Because my standards are kind of low after living in a small underdeveloped country, but it was really nice to encounter this kind of behavior after expecting to be yelled at by everyone and then stopped in bright daylight. You know, it's kind of a meme to say that Americans are fat. Oh, please don't conquer me. I think we became so used to this old meme that we didn't even notice that in the rest of the world, the obesity percentages also increased by a lot. I won't waste so much time on this stereotype because it's kind of dumb, but after spending a whole month seeing hundreds and hundreds of people in New York, I can firmly say that the vast majority of people there actually take care of their bodies. Like, I was expecting to see people with mobility scooters everywhere, but that's simply not true. And it makes sense because New York is a city where public transport works really well, except when people fall into the tracks of the train. And even though people try to bash it all the time, the truth is that the New York City subway is years ahead of what many countries have. So having a kind of reliable public transport allows people to go everywhere walking. Maybe that's why most people there were actually in decent shape. Another big stereotype people drilled into my head was that New York is really unsafe. After expecting to feel like I'm a random helpless NPC in GTA because everyone said that New York is unsafe and that it's habitual to feel like you could get mugged like 43 times at any point of the day. I was really confused because I felt safe the whole month I was there. I never felt unsafe in the streets of New York. I never felt like I couldn't have my phone in my hands in the streets or things like that. I tried to not walk at night if it was possible, to not test my luck because I'm not completely stupid, and the times I did, nothing sketchy happened.
Blake, maybe you only stayed in nice neighborhoods and that's why.
I stayed here, which for some people is a not so good neighborhood. A guard of the airport even said to me, "Why are you going to stay in there?" And I was like, "Why are you scaring me like this?" By the way, the neighborhood was really nice and quiet. I got a huge apartment, whereas if I had rented something in a more touristic zone, I would probably have gotten a more smaller and older place.
But the views!
I walked over the entire island of Manhattan and even went outside the island to explore things, and I never felt unsafe. Now, back to my little Santiago. When I walk in some parts of Santiago, I feel this vibe that I need to be careful with my things, like this weird feeling of constant alertness because someone may steal something from my backpack or steal my phone or something. Maybe that's because there are no cameras everywhere, so pickpockets feel more freedom to steal from you, and because of that, I'm extra careful when I'm there. Of course, New York is not at the same level as some overly developed countries like the Netherlands or Japan, where the rates of crime are impressively low, but it's no Santiago either. Persistent negative stereotypes on television, movies, series, games, and books. It's just there. It's no mystery why we would think that way. We are constantly bombarded with images that mold our mental image of New York and about everything really. This is why I don't trust INTP reviews anymore. When I check reviews to give me a general idea of the movie, many times I see movies with bad ratings and then I actually watch the movie and it's pretty okay. Over time, I realized that I can't trust the taste of people I don't know. Many times people say that something is bad just because they hear people talking shit about the movie and they are afraid of what people may think of them if they say that they like it. Movie ratings are completely contaminated by so many subjective aspects of the individual that it's difficult to find reviews that actually say the truth. How does this relate to what people say about New York? Well, it's the same. Most of the opinions that people have about New York are simple things that people hear somewhere, and then without even ever being in New York, they repeat the things they heard. Other times, people are just too blinded by what they see in movies and TV shows and form their opinion in base of that. You should give New York a chance. It's really chaotic sometimes, but not at the extreme of what some people say.
Welcome to New York. Go and fuck a dick.
It's a nice place and not as bad as people think. I was really expecting bad things and I left New York with nothing but to say. So that will be all, my fellow gamers and lesbians. Take this for watching the whole video. You can subscribe or leave a like if you want to give me some dopamine. I would love to read your experiences or what you have to say about New York in the comments. I hope you have an amazing week and I see you later. Take care. Bye bye.